Are back. What's up, everyone? Going over the Dolphins Jets game preview. Obviously, they play tomorrow in Miami, which is a nice little bonus. This is kind of the start of where the Dolphins have to win out, and even if they win out, they're not guaranteed to get in. But in my opinion, this is the easiest game left on the schedule. They play the Jets twice, but this one is the home game. Dolphins coming off a tough loss. Just watching Jets film, this is definitely one that you should win, and I think win pretty comfortably. It's a divisional game. Those can always go in a different way than expected, but Dolphins always kind of handle business versus the Jets. It just kind of seems like the Jets are checked out when you watch them. Like, they obviously have some talent, but they are not playing well. Even their defense hasn't been playing exceptionally well. One thing I did notice, testing. Yeah. One thing I did notice is this is a stat I came across. The Jets came out of their bye week last week versus Seattle, and they played a season high 60% like too high safety coverage. That's very rare for them. They usually do not do that, but they did that versus the Seahawks. And we know the Dolphins this year. This is stats from Tua. When Tua would face too high safety coverage in 2022, he threw 20 plus air yards 15% of the time. 2023 was 10% of the time. This year it's only 2.4%. So I imagine the Dolphins are going to be pretty quick passing game again if they do come out in too high. If they go back to what they usually do, then I could see the Dolphins taking more normal downfield deep shots. I think that's the reason Tua is always matched up pretty well versus the Patriots and the Jets, is they don't change up their defense to play Miami like a lot of teams do. Like they would still go a lot of cover one, single high looks, challenge the receivers. But I'm guessing they're not going to have Sauce Gardner. I'm guessing they're going to go a little more softer in coverage, so Dolphins have to dig and dunk. Hopefully run the ball well, too, because I think this is a game where the Dolphins might try to get their running game back in a groove. I definitely could see that happening. I still think they're going to be mostly pass-heavy, but I think they're going to try to, at least on a few drives, commit to the run. If it doesn't work, then they might go away from it, but that's something that's been a struggle with the team. But yeah, Jets pass D has been weak as of late. Since week 7, they're like 28th in EPA, allowing the ninth most yards per action average. So they've been running before last week. They were running 4th most man coverage and 7th most one high coverage. So maybe they've just completely changed that up, but we'll see how they stick with it, because they're usually a man heavy cover team, but switched that up completely last week. So they usually allow they'll give you some one-on-one chances for sure, but their defense is struggling more than usual. They have injuries. As I talked about, Sauce is doubtful. Also, CJ Mosley is out, their linebacker. That's a kind of a big miss for them. Breece Hall is doubtful, so they're going to start Braylon Allen, a rookie. And I had Braylon Allen has actually been kind of struggling for them in his time. He is, since week 4, he is 67th in yards per carry, 57th in yards after contact, and 59th in PFF rushing grade. That's from Jared Smola on Twitter. Just saw that. So he hasn't been playing good. So that hurts their big play explosiveness, I think. Garrett Wilson's their best player on the offense, receiver wise, but they have not been really giving him many chances to really work. Him and Rodgers aren't really on the same page. They obviously have Devontae Adams. Him and Adams, it seems like Adams is more of his favorite target recently. They're more on the same page, but even then, they've had their misses. Rodgers just not playing as good. He's more of he really just doesn't have any mobility left, which I think is a big boost for the Dolphins defense. When they face quarterbacks that don't really have much mobility, they really feast on it. I think Chop should have a big day. Jets have, some decent offensive linemen, but I think they're better on the interior. And some of their offensive linemen are banged up, I believe. Olu Fashanu, questionable. Morgan Moses, who's a right tackle, questionable. Xavier Newman, questionable. Elijah Vera Tucker, questionable, who's one of their better, probably their best offensive lineman, their guard. So there's definitely guys that can be attacked on their offensive line, for sure. Looks like they're also getting Alan Lazard back, which is interesting. They haven't had him in weeks. More of a blocker, but he's usually a guy that Rodgers loves to go after, so that's a name to keep up with. What's up, Scotty? How you doing? And then let's see. Yeah, so it's the easiest game left in my opinion. I expect to see more pressure this week, just because Rodgers is the type of guy to like either just rip it instantly, but he will have his reps where he holds onto that ball, and he has had like I think their offensive line's kind of just gotten worse as the season's gone on too. So I think Chop will get good opportunities. I think Sealer's going against some of the other interior alignments, maybe not Elijah Vera Tucker, they can get some pressure up front. It just helps that he just doesn't have that mobility anymore. And then also, if you watched this Jets game last week versus Seattle, the Jets probably had the biggest special teams advantage you'll ever see, and they still lost that game. They had a kick return for a touchdown. They had 2 forced fumbles on a kickoff that gave them great field position, and they still lost. I don't know how you lose a game with that type of advantage, but like even when like the Seahawks tried to gift them the game, they lost it. So predict a lot of screens and short passes from Rodgers to offset Chop's pressure. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think, but not having Breece Hall probably hurts them in that because Breece Hall has been like their heavy screen guy. So they could still go to Braylon Allen, but Braylon Allen just doesn't worry as much on the screens because he's not as explosive out in space as Breece is. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of do that. Rodgers also the type of guy, like if you give space to his receivers, like he will check out of a run and just throw a quick pass to the receiver on the boundary and then leave it one-on-one with a corner. So corner's got to be able to tackle. Like if you're playing off depth, you got to understand the situation, which I'm sure they do. It's very obvious if you watch Jets game that's what Rodgers likes to do. And he'll do that to any of the receivers pretty much that are out there. But yeah, I'm expecting a pretty big game from Chubb like we were talking about, just because last week versus the Packers was probably the game he got involved the least, is because the Packers, one, have a pretty good offensive line, but two, he was double teamed every snap. They were hard focusing him. And the Packers just have really good like play design too and could offset stuff. I don't think the Jets really have that. So I think Chop will still be able to get pressures, even if he's getting double teamed constantly. I still think he'll be able to find a way to get there. Yeah, but Jets offense kind of struggles with synergy. Garrett is still their most talented receiver, but Rodgers and him just have not been on that same page the whole season. Yeah, so their run defense, we'll go into some of their defensive stuff. If Kohu or Duck go in, Rodgers will immediately target them. Yeah, he definitely likes to try to find a guy and go after them, but I think Fuller is supposed to be back. Let me check the injury list. Yeah, I believe Fuller doesn't have a tag anymore, right? Fuller is, good to go. Like what the Dolphins have, Armstead's questionable. They have no one doubtful or out on the list. It's Armstead questionable, Chubb questionable. I doubt we see him back this week. Ferguson questionable, Cameron Good questionable. I don't think we see him back. Kohu questionable, Mostert questionable, Anthony Walker questionable, but it looks like Walker returned in full. So I think Anthony Walker will probably be back at linebacker position, which is interesting. But the Jets, their run defense actually doesn't rank very bad or very good for just like overall in the season. And with them playing more too high, that's what I was talking about. Like the Dolphins might be able to try to get the running game going this week. I would like to see a bounce back there because it's been a while, probably since the Bills game. I talked about this in the video. The run game has really struggled since Austin Jackson went down. I think there's many reasons for that. Like I broke it down in that video, lots of film. I think it's just trickled down the whole line. It's hurt the tight ends. It's hurt the guards. But yeah. I think you might be able to run against the team. I think the Jets defense just isn't that good this year. They obviously have talent, but I think once they fired Saleh, the Jets defense almost looked like they just given up. They've had games where like they wouldn't tackle anybody. They do have a good pass rush though, which is always, a good thing for a defense. But I think that's one area where the Dolphins have always been pretty good at getting away from. Like even teams that have very good pass rush or good pass rushers, they do a good job of shutting them down just with their play calling or their scheme. So usually an area where like usually where the Dolphins get beat is more from the interior pass rush, but even then they get the ball out so quickly, sometimes it doesn't even matter. So as long as the Dolphins don't have like go down early on, I think they can be fine in that area. Maybe get sacked once or twice, but I don't see it being like a huge issue, even though they have good talent there overall. I want to see Wright pulling. Yeah. I don't know if McMorris will see any snaps, but I think if the Dolphins lose one more game, all of those guys should start seeing a bunch of playing time because then the season's effectively over. And I've talked about this. Safety is a huge need next year. I think McMorris is the only one who's going to be under contract next year, and you need to know what you have out of him. Even if you re-signed Holland, I think safety's still a big need. And I don't think I'm starting to lean that they won't just because he's played bad this year and he's still probably going to see a decent contract. But you need to see what you have in a McMorris to see if you have a guy that can potentially be a starter for you or a third safety, special teams guy, whatever you see him as. We need to see reps out of him. Paul, isn't Lamb questionable? I don't know if no, it looks like Lamb's good to go. I know he practiced full on Friday, so it looks like Paul should be. I don't think we'll see Patrick Paul. Will be interesting. I have, obviously questions about him, and I would like to see him maybe. He just never really played right tackle, so it would be interesting. I think it would just bring more of a tenacity in the run game. Lamb would bring you more consistency in pass protection, but we know we can, potentially scheme to help out Paul in that area. But I don't know if we'll see him until maybe we've lost a game. I do think they're going to try to get Wright more involved, though. And Mostert. I think they just might try to run the ball more in this game. I am dropping frames. Hopefully it's not too bad. They didn't re-sign AVG last year. No way Holland gets a contract extension. I mean, definitely possible, but the only reason I think, if you look at the Dolphins free agents this year, and in future years, out of the big names they've drafted, Holland and Phillips are really the only players left. I think a reason they let AVG go is because they were like, oh, we still have to re-sign and sign all these people. Really, the only people left on the roster that are going to be future free agents or free agents next year that need potential extensions are Holland and Phillips. So they might see that and be like, hey, we do have the opportunity to go after someone, but that's the only reason I see that. But if Holland wants the bag, I think you just let him walk, for sure. Eichenberg and Lamb is the worst right side combo in the NFL, probably. But I also think if it was Eichenberg and Paul, it would also probably still be the worst in the NFL. But yeah, I would like to see Paul play. Dolphins just need better guard play, in my opinion. I think the guard play is the problem with the offensive line right now. And if you look at this next year's draft, I understand. I think the Paul pick makes more sense because the tackle class is weak next year. Even though I still wouldn't have taken Paul in the second round, it's just the tackle class is so weak next year that the Dolphins should not be focusing on that. They might take a tackle that can play guard potentially. I know we just talked about safety. I know Dane Brugler, if you guys know him, he released a mock draft. He had the Dolphins at 12 taking Malachi Starks, which I thought was interesting. And I've watched the draft class a lot now, a decent amount of them, and I'll get more. Once the Dolphins are eliminated, I'm going to get really into the draft. Usually you don't take safety that early, but just with how bad I think the top of the class is, I would not be against taking Starks, especially at 12. Because I don't think there's really any offensive linemen worth it at the top of the class. I think they could go D-line. There's the D-line and edge class is pretty good. The tight end class is good, but I don't see him taking any at 12. That's more of a second round type thing. But yeah. Question writer, Elijah Campbell, who's played safety, is a free agent. I think Campbell is a free agent. Let's see. Sorry, let me read what you guys were saying. I missed some stuff. Okay. Do you see the Dolphins drafting a security backup QB next year? Yeah, definitely possible. I think they definitely, whether it's draft or free agency, they're going to spend, most likely, I think free agency, they go after a decent veteran, which then won't force them to draft anyone super early. But I do think maybe fourth round, they go after a QB or something like that. Not necessarily a high-end one, but yeah, I think they're going to try to get 3 guys in there for sure. I'm not overpaying Holland. He doesn't deserve what he wants. Okay, I'm not overpaying Holland either. Is safety a need or safety depth? Is there a difference? They're both needs. Next year, I'm pretty sure everyone besides McMorris is a free agent. I don't know if Campbell is, and even if they re-sign Campbell's still a depth special teams guy. Even if you re-sign Holland, you still need a starter next to Holland. Safety's a huge need because Poyer's gone. You already cut May. Holland's a free agent. McMorris is a 6th round rookie. You don't know what you have out of him yet. But yeah. Kohu has not played safety this year, though. Am I lagging? I'm dropping frames. Let's see. Gotta love when the stream is going down. Yeah. Well, hopefully that gets fixed by itself. There's nothing I can really do while I'm live to fix it, because then it would just shut it down. Or move Ramsey to safety and focus on corner. It's a possibility, but I don't know if they'll do that. Corner is one of those positions next year where it's a premium position, and I think it's something you should always be looking at, but it's not necessarily like one of the positions I think you need to like fly after next year. Like safety, you definitely need safety. You're going to need another off-ball linebacker to play next to Jordan Brooks. You're going to need D-line because your Sealer's the only one under contract. And then like edge and corner, premium positions that you're going to add to, but it's not necessarily ones where like you need to like force anything, if you get what I'm saying. Like, and then on offense, it would be guard for sure. And then the rest of the offense, like I think you need a wide tight end, and then after that, you can go in different directions. Why is Bonner not getting snaps? I don't know. I would like to see Bonner play, especially with the corner injuries that have happened. I don't know why he hasn't gotten any reps out there. Because personally, like I like Duck for a rookie undrafted guy. I thought Bonner looked better last year in his limited snaps than Duck has looked this year in his limited snaps. So unless Bonner's like kind of fallen off, which I thought Bonner looked good in preseason too. So I mean, but that's all what's happening with the draft. Do you have a favorite source for Dolphins news / updated? No, I just see things randomly on Twitter from different sources. So no, I don't have like a go-to. It's just whatever kind of pops up on my feed, honestly. But let's see. Yeah, as I talked about, Jets play their highest amount of too high coverage this versus the Seahawks. So expected quick passing game again, especially if that's what they're kind of going for now. I know you're joking, Grant. We need to be targeting a top guard in the draft. Second round is the investment, in my opinion. Yeah, I would say if they go O-line in the first round, I think it's going to be a tackle that is going to transition to guard. Like they played tackle in college, but because I think a lot of the top tackles like Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks from Texas, I think they're most likely better guards at the next level. But I don't know. It depends who the GM is. Things can change with like philosophy. I know if it's Greer, he usually doesn't like to take. He's never taken a guard in the first round, so. But yeah. Oh, looks like my frames are back, so it should stop lagging. We can rant about random stuff. But yeah. Yeah, Jets. If the Dolphins lose this game, it's really chalk. Like, if you lose any game, it's the season's chalk, right? But if you lose this game, it's like the whole morale of the team, even like they might chalk things behind the scenes, especially coming off a tough loss to the Packers. And now you're at home versus a team with a losing record. All the narratives where you're usually good, you should blow this team out, in my opinion. I think the Texans game will be a big one because the Texans have a winning record and it's on the road. So those are narratives you have to break. But at least it's like the Texans are in a dome, right? So it's not going to be like a cold weather game. So that should be good for them to like have a better chance. And the Texans aren't playing as good. I think the Texans will still be favored if I had to get. I think they're favored if you look at whatever Vegas has them at. But I think that will be a closer one than what the Packers game was with all of that stuff against them. Milam. I haven't watched him yet, but actually for one of my like internships, one of the guys we have to like do reports on 2 players for like or like reports for them. It's for SIS. It's Milam and Xavier Restrepo. So I have to like watch their film and write a report. So I'll have like a full detailed report on him pretty soon. Honestly, and once the Dolphins lose, like I'm gonna have so many draft videos like ready to go. Like, and honestly, they'll probably be members only at first for a while, just because like college film is tricky on YouTube with like copyright and stuff. So I probably will keep them members only for a while and then make them public to everyone, just because I don't want to get the channel shut down. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know who the I just don't know who free agents are for yeah, and I'll probably, since I'm gonna be writing reports this year. That's probably another thing. I'll probably have like I think I'll have like a Google Drive or something that maybe, I don't know if it'll be like a members only thing, but like if people are members, that can just like access reports. And then obviously I'm still gonna make film breakdowns that everyone can watch on these players. It's just the college film is very tricky, very tricky with YouTube and like the people that copyright and claim it. But yeah, to answer your question, Grant, I just don't know who free agents are for other teams off the top of my head. I haven't looked. I've only been looking into draft stuff at this point. I know there's some free agents, like I know the Chiefs, Trey Smith, the guard, is a free agent, and that's like the big name guard if you want to go after a guard next year. But I don't know if the Dolphins spend big there, but that would be like one of like the only big gets I would see them maybe potentially going after. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, I think the safety class has some good names in it. I think Starks is the only first round safety, but there's some solid guys on day 2, potentially like 4th round as well, that I think you can go after. But I do think safety is a fairly big need. I wouldn't say I'm definitely would be worried about it, just because I think safety play, specifically in this scheme, you see what good safety play can do for you. Especially, I think having a safety that can play as like a nickel as well, like they have nickel versatility, that can play man-to-man in the slot, is something that goes undervalued in the league. And like a lot of the best safeties can do it, like Kyle Hamilton, Brian Branch, and I think it's helped out the Ravens and Lions a lot. Yeah, O-line, D-line for sure. Specifically guard, you really need one guard for sure. Like you need to heavily invest in one guard, and I think the other guard, maybe not like super resources into, but needs to be like a solid player. But like at the tackle, it depends if Armstead retires or not, I guess, with tackle. Because Brewer and Jackson will be your center and right tackle as long as they're healthy. Oh, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we hit 10K. I would love to make a big move in the first for Travis Hunter, any possibility. From what I've seen and what I've heard, and like even talked to people who are involved with draft stuff, everyone thinks Travis Hunter is going to go number 1 overall. Most likely. If he doesn't go 1, that means it's because a quarterback went. So I would say very unlikely they move up for Hunter. But because Hunter's an absolute stud. I've watched this class. I think literally, if I had to rate it, Hunter would be my number 1 prospect. After that, there's not a lot of guys that I would say are usually top 5 or top 10 players. Like, they're obviously first round talents, but like after that, I'm like, I'm going to have Ashton Genty rated as a top 2 to 3 player in this class, but he's a running back. And I wouldn't, you don't want to spend the running back class is good too. And I know the Dolphins don't really need running back, but that's one of those positions like day 3. I think you should always be looking to add a running back to your team. Yeah, I think Hunter's like one of the only guys in this class that I think is guaranteed to go like top 3. Yeah, I think the talent is more, it's a deeper class than it is a strong class up top. I think there's less first round picks than usual. I think like teams, I think Nagy, the Senior Bowl guy, said that like teams usually have like about 21 first round graded players. This year it's like teams have about 15. And then there's not as many top 10 guys. Like a lot of the people that will go top 10 are not usual top 10 players. They're first round guys, but they're not usually top 10. Oh yeah, Hunter is absolutely so good. Both sides of the ball, baller. Like really, really good. Really the only guy I'm like, wow. Everyone else, like I think like that receiver from Arizona, McMillan's going to go very high, but I don't know if he's usually a top 5, top 10 player in most drafts. Then you got like the Michigan defensive tackle, Mason Graham. He's a good player. He'll probably go top 10. Will Johnson, Michigan corner, will probably also go top 10, but yeah. Yeah, I think I responded to your comment on this, Grant. I did like Bucky Irving a lot. I was pretty high on him in the draft, but I would not. I think he's a good player. I just think the reason I would not have drafted him over Wright is because even though I have them similarly graded, I think they're both like around the same round for me. Is Wright is just a better scheme fit for the Dolphins. Bucky Irving is very good in between the tackles, running like gap scheme stuff, but he's not really your typical outside zone runner. And I think that's why they went after Jalen Wright. Yeah, I'd be down for like a more of a power guy in that backfield too, because I think next year might be time to move on from the older backs, like letting Mostert and Wilson walk, and having Achane, Jalen Wright, and then maybe someone you drafted on day 3 or someone you signed in free agency that wasn't super expensive to be like, another serviceable back for you. Yeah, I don't know what's up with the QBs this year. Like, I think the only ones, if I had to guess, I think Sanders and Ward are the only ones that go top 10. But I have no idea what's going to happen with Milrow. I don't think he should go that high, but you never know with QB. You never know. I think it's a good thing the Dolphins are so fairly healthy for this game. That's always helpful. But those were like the main things I wanted to talk about with the Jets. I think here's some of their statistics actually. Like offensively, they're not good. Like they're 26 in points per game. They're 31st in yards per game. They're 32nd in 4th down conversion. I think their best offensive stat is their 12th and 3rd down conversion. They've not been a good rushing team. They're in the 20s in like every big category. They don't even run very often. And with no Breece Hall, I expect them to run even less. So I expect they're going to be more pass heavy. They pass a lot, but their yards per pass is 29th. Their pass yards per game is 23rd, even though they throw their 6th amount of passes per game. So that's pretty bad conversion there. I would like to see the Dolphins defense bounce back in this one, because we haven't seen the defense play a good game since the Rams game. They were like okay versus the Raiders, or they were good. My bad. They were very good versus the Patriots, but like I want to see them play good against bad teams, obviously, but like I need to see them play a good game versus a good team. I think the problem with the defense right now is they just don't have the talent across the board. They've had some injuries, obviously, that have hurt them, but I just think they're old. I think that they're old and beat up, and they're slowing down. I think you have a few players on the team that stick around. I think Sealer, Chop, Jordan Brooks, Ramsey are like the main core of the defense right now. And I think everyone else, it can go in any direction I'm talking about next year, because like obviously Calais Campbell's playing very good, but he's gonna be free agent. He's older. He might retire. I'm not like looking into next year. I'm like, those are the guys that are gonna stick around. You have it all, 3 levels of your defense. The rest of the defense could go in any direction. I think, you probably have Fuller back next year. He's you have another year of his deal. So at corner, you have your top 2 guys. I think Kohu's a restricted free agent, so you'll probably have him back too. And I think you still have the young guys. So the corner room will probably look pretty similar, but I'm guessing they'll add someone to it as well. Safety will look completely different. I think off-ball linebacker, the starter, will look different next to Brooks. I think the backups will probably look fairly similar, though. Because Walker and Dotson are both free agents. Might re-sign them. Who knows? D-line, I think everyone's a free agent besides Sealer. Campbell, Benito Jones, Deshaun Hand. The guys that play are all free agents. And then Edge, if you're getting Jalen Phillips back, I didn't mention Phillips, but like Phillips will be here next year, which is huge. Phillips and Chop, if Chop playing at this level and Phillips returns healthy, then you have a nasty pass rush duo. Chubb, I'm kind of expecting them to move on from Chubb for cap reasons. But if you keep Chubb, then you really don't have to worry about edge. Chubb, Chop, and Phillips actually healthy is a very good edge trio. I would love a complete linebacker. There are some good ones in this class. I like the Oklahoma kid. The Utah kid is interesting. The Alabama kid, Campbell, is interesting. There's some good linebackers. I think if the Dolphins end up picking like it depends where they pick. It's so tough because usually I wouldn't take off-ball linebacker in first round, and I don't know if there's really any off-ball linebackers worth it in the first round. I think they're more like second-round guys. But in this class, if you're picking late enough, you might have to pick a second-round guy in the first round just due to numbers. Is Weaver stick another year? Yeah, I think most of the problems with the defense really hasn't been scheme-wise with the team. So I think unless Weaver leaves for like he gets hired somewhere else or wants to leave, I think Weaver would be here. Yeah, but you never know. Like, who knows? We could just fire everyone and that would be over. Chubb has been a huge disappointment, in my opinion. I don't know about, like, I even talked about when we traded for Chubb, I wouldn't have traded a first round pick for him just because I'm a big draft guy. I don't think it was ever worth it. I don't think he's been a huge disappointment. Like, when he's played, he's been good. It's just he's taken a while to recover from a torn ACL, so I'm not going to put, like, too much blame on him with that, Right, our silly question. Chris Brown is yelling for the Fins to get a veteran QB as a backup. I highly doubt the Fins could get a good vet QB backup. The Raiders kept Minshew or IOC would either. I mean, I don't think they'd be the worst. I'd rather have Aiden O'Connell from them, but I think they would be more likely to keep Aiden O'Connell than Minshew. I just don't think Minshew's very good. But honestly, I think next year's draft class should be a lot on the defense because you need to get younger. The Dolphins are just so old. They're so old. Like, insanely old they need to get a lot younger. And the defense needs to get a lot better, but let's see, what else here? The Jets actually rank pretty good statistically passing game wise, like their completion percentage, they're third. Pass yards per game, they're second, but they face less passes usually, so that makes sense. Their yards per pass is 14th. They're number one in sack percentage, though, so they get a lot of sacks. So that's like something the Dolphins need to, keep up their usual quick passing game, getting the ball out quickly, play action, be smart with, when you're going to take your shots. As an Entombed coming in spot filled, Minshew is perfect in my opinion. I mean, yeah, it's not the worst pickup. Like, I just have always been like, I just have always thought Minshew's slightly overrated, even as a backup. I've always just been like, I've never been that big of a fan of him. But like, even like as a backup, he's not bad to have. Like, it's definitely better than what the Dolphins have right now. It's just, I don't know who's available. So you might have to draft, and then that's why I'm like, when people complain about the Dolphins backup position, I'm like, honestly, unless you had literally another starter as your backup, I think the Dolphins were just screwed anyway. Because this system is so fit into Tua's skill set. Like, you have to have such a specific skill set for this system. That's why, like, unless your backup was Brock Purdy, like, you were going to struggle anyways. Even though the guys they had were horrible. Skylar is terrible. Really, really bad. But yeah, we definitely need to, hopefully they can find someone. Yeah, well, Mayfield's a starter, and Flacco's old, and honestly, when Flacco played this year, he didn't look good either. He looked much better last year, and he would be better than what we had, but I still don't think it would have made too much of a difference. Maybe one extra win. But I don't know. I'd have to look at who the free agent quarterbacks are. I haven't done really anything with free agency yet. I've only really looked at draft prospects. Because free agency changes so much. Like with draft, I know these people are going to be in the draft. With free agency, it's like a lot of these guys end up getting re-signed anyways before, so it's like I don't want to spend too much time watching them. Let's see. But yeah, Jets rushing defense is actually they only give up. There's 7 in yards per rush, but a lot of teams run against them. Like their rush play percent, like people run against them as much as almost anyone in the league, which is kind of weird. But I don't think the Dolphins will continue that trend. Like, I think they're going to pass more than they run, like they usually do. Maybe their rush will go up a little bit more than usual, but I don't think it will be a complete flip in the game script, just because the Dolphins are a better passing team. And their passing game, a lot of it is like an extension of the run games, the screens, the quick passing game. That is basically just how the Dolphins run the ball nowadays. How they keep defenses honest. Let me look at the list right now. Because I've looked at this recently, but I forget exactly who all the Dolphins free agents are off the top of my head, so let me look at the list. Okay. Scrolling. Miami Dolphins. All positions. Okay. Let's look through this. Okay. Yeah, Elijah Campbell is a free agent. Honestly, I will say this, just scrolling at first glance, looking at every one of these names, I don't think anyone on this list is like a must resign. Like legitimately. Let's see. Okay, let's go. We'll go through this. Like you have at the top here, we got Tyrell Dotson. I mean, I wouldn't mind re-signing Dotson, but like he's not in like a guarantee like for special teams in depth though. You have Ogba, but like Ogba's older. I'd let Ogba walk personally. Jeff Wilson, time for Wilson to move on. Odell Beckham, time for OBJ to move on. Kendall Lamb's a free agent, he's retiring. Duke Riley's a free agent, let him go. Javon Holland is really the only big name on here. And he's like really the only young, like if you look at all these free agents, Holland is really the only young one. Like Holland is not even 25 yet. So I feel like you'd have to put Holland in the top 3, even though like he's going to be too expensive. Just because the rest of the names are like, I don't think you need to re-sign any of these people. Barrios is free agent, you let him go. Eichenberg's a free agent. I would only re-sign Liam if he's coming back to be depth and it's cheap. Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones are both free agents. I would re-sign one of Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones for depth, and that's it. I do not want to rely on one of them to be your starters. I think they're serviceable as depth players. As starters, they are not good. I don't think you should let both go because they're not going to be that expensive realistically. So who's ever cheaper, they're both pretty young too because like they're both like Eichenberg's about to turn, he's 26. Robert Jones is 25, so whatever. Calais Campbell, if he wants to play another season, I would like to bring him back, but if not, like I'm not spending big money on Campbell. Like he's going to be 39, and I think getting younger is a big thing for this team. Poyer, fire him into the sun. I think Poyer's the worst starter on this team. I've been very vocal about that. I don't like. That's why I want better safety play. I played safety personally, so that's why maybe I'm a little biased about safety play. Poyer has been horrible. Saran Neal's a free agent. I actually wouldn't mind re-signing Saran Neal for special teams. Isaiah Wynn, a free agent. We don't even know if he can still play. Maybe he'll play. Benito Jones, Elijah Campbell, and Deshaun Hand, and Anthony Walker. These are the next 4. Benito Jones, Elijah Campbell, Anthony Walker, Deshaun Hand. Those are some of the guys I actually would like to bring back. I think Benito Jones and Deshaun Hand have been solid depth this year for the D-line. They've been playing actually pretty solidly for you. And they're both under 30 still. I'd say bring them back if they're fairly cheap. Why not? Like you need D-line depth. Sealer's the only one on the team. So I think if you re-sign them and then maybe draft a D-lineman high or you sign another big name guy or just bring one of them back, I think for sure you bring back at least one of Benito Jones and Deshaun Hand. Elijah Campbell I like to bring back. I think you need safety depth on this team. You're already down safeties. I actually think Campbell's not that bad. I would like to see Campbell play over Poyer right now if that was possible. Even McMorris, but I also think Campbell's just a good special teams player. Anthony Walker Jr. I actually think has been, when he took over for Long, I actually think that was a nice boost to the defense. He's not a perfect player. I think he should be brought back to be like your third linebacker, if anything. But seems like he's a good vet, good leader. Players on the teams respect him from what I've seen. So he's another guy I wouldn't mind resigning. And all those people should be relatively cheap. Then you have Cameron Brown. He hasn't played. He's injured. Hasn't played at all this year. Blake Ferguson, long snapper. Who cares? Jack Stoll. You just traded for him. Or you just didn't trade for him. You claimed him, but he hasn't played at all. So it's another low end free agent. Anthony Schwartz, nope. Quentin Bell, I would say this. So Quentin Bell, Keon Smith, and Kader Kohu are all restricted free agents. Those are guys that I could see sticking around on the roster. Keon Smith's obviously coming off the main injury. But Quentin Bell actually has been one of the more pleasant surprises in recent weeks. I actually thought he's played pretty solid the last 3 weeks. And he's very athletic, so he's intriguing to me. And then Kohu, Kohu's played a lot of snaps for you. If you get him back for cheap and he's a restricted free agent, might as well bring Kohu back, even if he's not going to start for you. Might as well. And the other two free agents are Cameron Good and Grant DeBose. I wouldn't actually mind, and they're both ERFA. I forget what the E stands for, but they're both basically restricted free agents. They both could come back as well on cheap deals. Doesn't matter with me. Jason, yeah, I think it's Jalen Walker, but yeah, he's a first round guy, but he's I think he's better as a pass rusher, but he's intriguing. He's he almost plays like the Micah Parsons type role, he plays off ball, he plays rush off the edge. If the Dolphins are picking in the teens, I would be interested in that pick too. But I need to watch more of Walker because he does some things that I'm ooh, don't love that, but he also does something I'm it's in this class, it'd be intriguing. Plus, he's just super athletic and physical. I think there's certain parts instinctually he needs to work on with his games, but Meyer, oh yeah. Clearly, the Dolphins are invested in Meyer. I think good center depth to have. I'm sure they're going to try to develop him. But Brewer's been really good this season. I think Brewer's one of the only O-linemen that I've trusted. I think we really see the value of Austin Jackson in the run game with him going down, so you want to keep Jackson, and you still have him for a couple more years. I think the biggest question with the offensive line is we know what we're going to do. You have to do something at guard. I think that's pretty much guaranteed at this point. I think the biggest question mark is Armstead going to retire or not? If Armstead retires, then you have some questions. Do you thrust Patrick Paul into a starting position next year as your starting left tackle, or do you still try to develop him but even if you do that, you have to sign a swing tackle to replace Lamb and Armstead, Paul would be replacing, or do you sign someone that can be your starter and then you still try to develop Paul for another year and then Paul takes over the next year, that type of thing. All right, who's the linebacker Finn's got via free? Tyrell Dotson. He's a free agent. He's 26 and he's a good special teams player. I wouldn't mind bringing him back as depth, but I don't think he should be relied on as a starter. I think adding another super athletic linebacker next to Brooks would be a huge boost for the whole defense. I think it helps out pretty much every level. Yeah, Keon Smith could potentially, that's another one that could potentially be the swing, but I don't think that's one you can super rely on at this point. You never know coming off the injuries. But yeah. Yeah, I think for sure you try to add a starter next to Brooks. I don't know who the free agent linebackers are, but if you can find another free agent linebacker that's kind of like Brooks's level and get him for the same, relatively same deal, they got Brooks for a $7 million per year deal, I think it's pretty good value. Yeah, I'd be down, but most likely day 2 if they go that direction. I just think the Dolphins have so many needs. There's no position where you have to draft this in the first 3 rounds, I think the only one is maybe guard, but if you shore up guard in free agency, then it's then you don't have to force yourself to draft a guard. Because I think you can, in the first 3 rounds, you're going to have 4 picks, right? Because you'll probably have 2/3 because of compensatories. I can see them going safety. I can still see them going corner just because it's a premium position, always going after corner. I can see them going off-ball linebacker. I can see them going edge because it's premium, and you probably only would have Phillips and Chop as for sure guys. D lineman for sure, because Sealer's really your only guy for next year. So every defense position I think is on the table. Offensively, I guess there's not as many positions outside of O-line that you need to force, but wide tight end I think is something you need to address for sure. Wide tight end. I like the tight end. The tight end class is legit. It's a big reason I want to draft the tight end because this is one of the best tight end classes I've ever seen. Last year, if you look at this tight end class, Brock Bowers would be number 1 still. But the next 9 would all be from this class if you combine the last 2 classes. Very so like wide tight end I think would be huge. Receiver, I would like to add a receiver at somewhere. I don't think, but it's not a position you need to force. I've thought about it, like I want to like there's this guy that just got added to the senior bowl. Like I think his name's what's his name? I think he's from TCU, bigger body guy. I want like a bigger body receiver that still moves well, but plays with physicality, can block. I think that would help, like kind of what the Dolphins need a receiver, because other than that, they're fine at receiver, obviously. Running back, you take one on day 3 maybe, or just sign someone for agency. But the rest of the, like quarterback, you just sign one for agency, but I'd say the cap for UDFAs instead of wasting money on another vet like player. I mean, you don't have to spend too much on UDFA, so I think it's you don't need to necessarily save that much cap anyways. But yeah, don't sign a poor like free agent. I mean, if you want to sign a vet free agent safety, don't have them be on their way out, you know. That's true. We do also have Taj. I just want to add a receiver that has some size. That's why I also think they're going to re-sign Grant DeBose, because he's an restricted free agent as well, and he's still only 23, and he's a bigger body guy, and he can block and play special teams. I know he had that really bad play in the Bills game. In his first game, he dropped that ball, but I could see him coming back too. Is Malik solid as our number 3 next year? I like what I've seen from Malik mostly. He was bad in the Packers game for sure, but I don't know if you can just rely on him right away to be your number 3. Like I would think number 4 would be a good spot for him, but and you don't necessarily, like, you could have like a couple guys be your 3rd receiver, you know, because realistically you don't play a lot of 11 personnel in this offense. Like you play a lot of 12, you play a lot of 21, so you only have like 2 receivers on the field in a lot of those positions. So I think they need guys that not like Malik's more of a slot receiver. I think you need a guy that can play on the outside, also play as a big slot if needed. So big body guy, like almost like a guy that's even a tight end like ish. Basically, that's what Jonnu Smith's been for you. No, it's I think his last name's like Beck, Bech. That's who I was talking about. He was like he started at LSU as a tight end. He transferred, and then but like he was really good this season for TCU. Like he makes some plays, and he like moves well for his size, and he's physical after the catch. I think that's something like you gotta like Dolphins need like physical players after the catch. You've seen what having someone like Jonnu Smith does for this offense. Having more guys that are physical after the catch just really helps open things up, and it's just such a natural fit for the scheme. Chris Brazell, yeah. I mean, I've seen Brazell play a lot this year for Tennessee. I don't know. I don't know if he's worth a 4th or 5th round. I think he's a little bit later than that, if I had to guess. But I'd have to. I've only watched him play live, I guess, because I do go to the Tennessee games. I haven't watched his film specifically, so I guess I can't say for sure how I would rate him. At least not yet. Better Harry, I would like to know if you know who Skaggs1383 is. You remind me of him a lot. I've actually gotten that before, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it's because we kind of have like a similar sounding voice, and he used to make, I don't know if he still makes Dolphins videos, but like when I looked it up, it was like a year ago. And I don't think he had made them or something, but he like used to make Dolphins videos. But yeah, I've gotten that like a couple, I've gotten like, it hasn't been many, but like you're probably like the 3rd comment I've seen about that. But I don't know. I'm excited to, once the season's over, I'm excited to dig into the draft. The Dolphins actually have draft picks this year to work with, like where we're gonna have like 10 or something. So that'll make the drafts more exciting. But yeah. Mason Tharp. I haven't watched Mason Tharp. Honestly, I don't even think I've heard that name. But the tight end, I don't know. I just such read Mason. There's Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's son, I believe. LSU tight end. I really like Gunnar Helm. I think Gunnar Helm from Texas, the tight end, is like such a good fit for what the Dolphins need. And you can probably get him on day 2. So I'd be a big fan. I think Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end, is amazing as well. The tight end class is really good. There's some other guys that are good, but I don't know. Like Colston Loveland is good. Fannin from Bowling Green is good as well. But they're more of receiving tight ends, like not inline guys. Like Fannin is kind of John New-esque. Also he plays like he's very Cade type, big slot receiver. Check out Tharp, late round tight end, 6'9", 270. I'll check him out. There's I don't know if you've watched the Georgia Tech tight end. His name, I believe, is Jackson Hawes. That guy's just like a 6 offensive lineman. That guy is just blocking out there. If you want an inline tight end, if the Dolphins got like him in like day 3 or something, I'd be down for that because that guy is just out there blocking. There's some good blockers. There's another blocker. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I watched him recently. I can't remember who it was, but I think he also might have went to the Senior Bowl as well, but he was interesting as well, too. Also an inline blocker type. Yeah, Luke Lachey, the Iowa tight end. I haven't watched him this year, but I do remember watching him in previous years and liking what I've seen. So I know I heard his stock was dropping, so I don't know like if he just like fell off. I think he's coming off the torn ACL, right? So he's maybe it's an injury thing, but he's another name like if he falls, like might as well, throw like the tight end class is legit. And I think that's probably I think that tight end position, like people have been like, wow, Johnny's played so well for you. But I think if you look at it like outside of that, like the Y position at tight end has probably been next to guard your biggest weakness offensively. It's really hurt the running game, like really has, because it's so important. And like when you're attached outside, like running strong outside zone to play side with the tight end there has just become almost pointless because they can't kick out. They're not creating any movement. So the Dolphins, I think, if they want to become a better running team, better guards, better Y inline blocking tight end. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm a big Helm fan. Gunnar Helm is like, I think just all around really good. Like he can play as a receiver too. Really fluid, makes plays at the catch point, but is also a solid inline blocker. I think he would just complement Jonnu really nicely, but also be able to still be a part of like the passing game. A guy that you could still dump off to underneath, like those plays that you see Durham Smythe and Julian Hill catch every once in a while. Helm could get those, but would be much better with the ball in his hands. Yeah. This next draft is huge. Dolphins have not had many draft picks in recent years. The team is think the oldest team on average this year. If you look at the future of the team based on cap and stuff, like I don't think you're going to be able to spend too much in the next few years. You're not built the best long term. So like the draft is huge. This upcoming draft, the upcoming couple drafts are huge, obviously. But like this is huge, man. Could be game changing. Can't afford to miss on many picks. Obviously, you're not going to be perfect. No GM is ever perfect in any of these draft classes, but it's just they have a lot of needs next year. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty 50-50 on if I like guessing if Greer's going to be here or not. Personally, I would move on, but I don't know. I'm not as negative like Greer as some people are. Like people hate Greer. I think they can definitely upgrade at the GM position because there's definitely picks where I'm like, I don't agree with Greer. He's had good drafts. He's had bad drafts. I just think it's time to move on from up top. But I don't know if they're going to do it. I really don't. Every draft is huge for fans. Yeah, but the most recent drafts, they just haven't... Like last year, they had... How many picks they have last year? 6. And the 2 years before that, they only had 4 and 4. So like they've just have not had many draft picks in the last 3 years. So I just don't think they've been as important just because the resources aren't there to really get you too many guys. Even though this last class actually I think shows some potential because the other 2 classes is really just Achan right now from 2022 and 2023. It's really just Achan, I believe, out of that group that's really worked and has been like really good. This upcoming class, I think, has promise. Like Chop, I think Chop's going to be very good. I have pretty good faith in Chop. Paul, we have no clue. Paul is completely up in the air, can go in either direction. I think the other guys have shown, like, Wright's shown some stuff. Malik has shown some stuff. Kamara, we haven't really seen anything yet. McMorris showed promise in preseason, but these are all late round guys. Taj was hurt, so there's some potential there for that draft class, but it's still too early to tell for most of the position. I say most of the people outside of like Job. More so is important to hit when they have less picks. They have to. Yeah, I mean that's a way to look at it, but like even if you hit on those picks, you still have so many needs because you don't have a lot of picks. That's why like with how many picks you have in this upcoming class, you have so many needs that you have to hit on a lot of them. Yeah, Zach Tom was definitely a miss. We have directional. I mean, we just have no idea what we have with Ball. We just haven't seen any, like, he's played some snaps, but, like, there hasn't been enough positive or negative for me to be, like, it's leaning one way or the other. It's only 1 year, too. Like, people overreact after 1 year. Like, people were calling Chop a bust. That was crazy. Calling Chop a bust was crazy. But, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, he's technically a tight, I mean, he played wide receiver at Stanford, but he's technically a tight end. I still disagreed with that. I remember saying that, like, I would not have cut Higgins, especially with the tight end room. I would have rolled with Higgins, Julian Hill, and Durham Smythe. Like, they only kept Hill and Smythe, but, like, I would have kept Higgins. And Higgins has been, he's their number 2 tight end in Arizona. He makes some catches for them. He does some things. But damn. I love your hesitation with Paul. To be fair, when Paul played was it last game or the game before where he had to play snaps? He played like 17 or something snaps. It was not pretty, like at all. Like I don't remember seeing like one snap where I'm like, oh, that was a good play. For the most part, it was just like neutral snaps. But it's only 17 plays and you're coming in mid-game, so I don't try to judge it too harshly. It's just like, I don't have a lot of faith in any of the offensive linemen outside of right now that's healthy is other than Brewer and Armstead. Yeah, he tried to sneak Higgins back in the practice squad, for sure. And Higgins got claimed, and I think the Cardinals were number 1 on the claim that year, and they claimed Higgins. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know if Tom can... to be fair, I don't know if Tom's a guard. I guess you would probably bump Jackson, then I think Tom's more of a tackle. I think they viewed Higgins like Connor. Yeah, but they also had Connor on practice squad that year. So they cut both of them. Because they only kept 2 tight ends initially. They cut everyone. Because they had Eifert, the other guy that's on the, I think his name's Seibert. He's on the Niners. He plays for the Niners now. They cut everyone except 2 tight ends initially. They brought Eifert back once in a while, like onto the main roster, and then cut him. But they only kept 2 tight ends that year initially. I remember that. Yeah. I just don't think it was a smart decision to, like, you drafted him a wide receiver that you were converting to tight end, and I didn't think he was bad in preseason. I thought he actually showed some positive plays in preseason, and then you cut him right away. Like, that was a guy you're trying to develop. Yeah, Eric, right? I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but yeah. And he actually plays for the Niners, which it makes sense. He was a scheme fit, but like he just wasn't. I don't know. The tight end position has just been weak. Yeah, I know. Yeah, people thought Tom could play guard. I think it's because Tom doesn't have the longest arm, so they thought he would be more of a guard the next level. I just think with his skill set, he's better suited at tackle, but who knows? AJ didn't fare well at left tackle. Well, yeah, I was saying more of like if you had Tom, you might have to bump AJ to guard. But I don't know if I don't think he's really a guard either. But I guess, I mean, when did we sign Armstead? I don't know. They drafted Higgins because of his blocking. We still have that tight end last year as a good blocker. Really, we haven't had none of the tight ends on this year are able to block. Last year, Julian Hill showed promise as a blocker, this year he completely all that progress that he was showing as a blocker went away. He still has like some positive reps, but it just the negative reps completely outweigh that. And then Durham Smythe is just like nothing there. No, he's not giving you anything at this point. And that's really hurt the running game. But yeah, any questions? Any more questions? Whether anything Dolphins related, anything draft, Jets, whatever. Let's see some Rucci. That would be interesting. Yeah, Rucci's on the practice squad, right? They got him back. I'm pretty sure they did. I think he got waived at one point, but then he's back recently. But who knows? I mean, I still don't think he would solve the problem. I think would be a fine depth guy to have, but the Dolphins need like a legit wide tight end. Yeah, Rucci at fullback would be interesting. They need Angle to play. They need Angle to have a game like he did against the Patriots to really have their run game kick up. Who knows? The run game has been really bad. Really, the only consistent positive part of the team since Tua's returned has been the passing game. I talked about that. I think the defense has been inconsistent. They've had their moments. Since the Bills game, Austin Jackson's been down, the run game's pretty much been gone. Like, barely anything. Like, the only positive runs you've really had are Achane making, like, something out of nothing. Harry, yeah. I mean, I think he just got... Like, I think he was battling McMorris, who was drafted, and McMorris just outshined him. And if you watch Perry at TCU, like, Perry was a good man cover guy, but, like, I didn't really like him. Like, he was a man cover guy that clearly was fast and athletic, but didn't have a ton of instincts. So, like, you needed to see him probably develop pretty early. And then I think he signed somewhere else on the practice squad. I think Raheem getting sat down was a mistake. I do think Raheem should start getting more touches again. I don't think it was initially a problem to sit him down because, to be fair, Raheem did lose us 2 games this season. Mostert, like, kind of single-handedly lost you 2 games this season. He made the biggest mistakes in 2 games that you needed wins in the Colts and Bills game. But I do think having him out, like, he played good against Green Bay. Like I think he needed to see some less playing time to like clean up the fumbling problem. But he should start seeing more playing time, I agree. Is Wynn going to start? I don't know. I doubt it. I would like to see Wynn play though. I want Wright over Mostert. I understand that too. It's just Wright has like really done. I would like to see Wright play. Like Wright is just like his opportunities have not been very good. Like the blocking for him, like he's had nowhere to go. But like I swear, almost every run in like the past 3-4 weeks he's gotten touches have been negative, other than like 2 plays. Mostert has had more positive plays. I think it would help, at least right now. But Wright should definitely get a lot of touches next season for sure. Right, or Needham, does this defense have a role for him after this year? I doubt it, because if Needham's not playing at all this year with the injuries in the secondary, I don't think he has a role with the team next year. Even though I would like to see him get some opportunities this year with how some of the guys have been playing back there. How bad was it to watch Matt Collins torch us? Dude, Matt Collins is an interesting guy, man. Learning all those steps that, like, seeing him he walks around everywhere barefoot and, like, he won't use an elevator or something. You know, when that happens and you're getting torched by that guy, definitely rough. And whatever happened to Lynn Bowden Jr.? Lynn Bowden played for the Saints after the Dolphins and would rotate in, but never really got the ball. And now I believe he is a free agent. Ryder, give us your 3 keys for the Finns to beat the Jets. I mean, I didn't really have like a 3 keys. I kind of just had a bunch of notes written down. I expect, so I would say one, I expect the Jets have always been a man-heavy team this year, but last week they went cover 2 at their highest rate of the season at 60%. So I expect that to be the same. So I think finding some success running the ball in the quick passing game, what the Dolphins have been doing quick passing, will be a big part of this one. Don't try to force anything. Just kind of been doing what you've been doing offensively. They're down injured guys, missing some of their better defenders, especially in the back end. So don't allow their pass rush to get going with them to get after you. So like the quick passing games would be huge. I would like to see the defense be pretty aggressive, get after Rodgers. I would like to see more man-to-man. I think the Dolphins' defense, their secondary plays better when we go man-to-man. It's not always pretty. There will still be the negative plays, but I feel like when they go soft, there's just too many mistakes. I feel like when you allow them to play like really fast downhill, that and like getting after Rodgers, who doesn't have the mobility this year, is pretty nice. And definitely will help out. And then don't make any major special teams mistakes. Because last week the Jets had a kick return for a touchdown and forced 2 fumbles on kickoffs. They still lost, which is crazy. But clearly they've had some special team success. And the Dolphins' special teams is trash. And we kind of lost last week versus the Packers very quickly, because you can't, versus good teams, have an instant special teams mistake where you spot a team 7 points. The defense doesn't show up this game, Weaver needs to be questioned. I expect the defense to look pretty solid. I think it just depends on the play calling for Weaver. Like, if the mistakes that happen are more players' fault, then yeah, but yeah, Cross. Special teams, man, rough. Even though Jason Sanders did win, didn't he win like AFC Special Teams Player of the Month? I didn't even realize. I think because he didn't miss any kicks. But yeah, that's I think that's pretty much everything. December 18th, okay. Finns 33, Jets 12, also fair. I would say this is the game I'm most confident in for the rest of the season. Just looking at the Jets, and it being the Jets in Miami, I think the Dolphins beat them 30-0 last year in Miami. Dolphin 2 has never lost to the Jets. Jets have been playing bad. It seems like they've kind of given up. They have talent, but it seems like they don't care. Now, you can't take it easy on them. If the Dolphins play down to their opponent, I will be pissed off. But the rest of the games will be tougher. The Texans and Niners, if you can somehow pull off 2 wins in a row versus Texans and Niners, you're actually kind of back into it, but who knows? Because those games will be tough. Even though they both aren't playing up to their standard right now, those are no walk in the park. Same with the Browns, too. The Browns have been playing better as of recently. But those are games Browns games weeks away. Things can change drastically by then. But I would say after the Jets game, the Texans and Niners games are like huge. Because if you somehow pull off those, you have 2 more games where you should be definitely the favored team. But yeah. 12 is a hard score. Does that mean we keep... Kind of like the Rams game. The Rams scored 15 with 5 field goals. You give up 4 field goals for the Jets. Ryder, one more question. Okay. Last question. Oh. It's going to be something ridiculous, right? Or is it a serious question? Oh, my frames are dropping. Is there a player on the Finns practice squad that you want them to promote? Let me just check the Dolphins roster real quick. Let me just check everyone that I know is on it, so I know everyone that's on the practice squad. Okay. Practice squad. Honestly, wow, there's some names on here that I didn't even know were on the practice squad. Let's see. So we got Hayden Rucci, okay. That would be interesting. Ezukanma? Maybe. Isaiah Johnson. Oh yeah, they signed Jason Maitre too. Shout out Jason Maitre. Isaiah Johnson, Nick Needham. It's tough to say because it's like I don't know if they should elevate any of these guys right now, but if the Dolphins get into a position to where they're like, if they lose another game, like if they're in a position where they lose another game, I wouldn't mind seeing someone like Isaiah Johnson or Hayden Rucci or even Eric Ezukama, some of the younger guys, just to see what you have out of them going into next season. Because like those guys, like Isaiah Johnson showed some nice promise in the preseason. I wouldn't mind, potentially seeing some of these guys down the line. I like Kamara. Yeah, I would also like to see Kamara because I think the problem is he's probably viewed as like he plays the same position as Chop. So like they think they need help at the other positions, but I don't know. But yeah, I'd like to see some of the young guys. Wow, we have a lot of player on reserves. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maybe if we win this week, they'll activate Bradley Chubb, get Chubb back in action. That would be a huge boost. I don't know if he'll be up to 100%, so we don't know that. But if he's like relatively up, that would help out the Dolphins defense a lot, I think. I think that's the Dolphins defense main problem this season has been their edge rush because it's really only been Chop, and that's only been over like the past like 5 weeks. And everyone else can't really win one-on-one, and then Chop just gets double teamed. So like imagine if we had Chop and Chubb or Chop and Phillips. I think that would drastically change the whole dynamic of the defense. But yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for watching.